anyway and go up on the university's YouTube channels. So why don't we begin, Vinay?
Okay.
Excited to have you here. Today is the concluding part of this 5-day series on the experiences of JGU alumni who are pursuing or who have completed doctoral studies. And we started the week talking about all that goes into deciding when, where, and why to pursue your doctorate. Then on day 2, we went over how to put together a good application, a competitive application, and what goes into that. On day 3, we talked about formulating your research project, your research question, and the early part of your degree program. Yesterday, we talked in depth about method and mentorship. And today we are very, 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 very excited that you are here to have a conversation about defense, right? Which is the very kind of last stage of your doctoral studies and what comes after. Thank you to the attendees who joined us here at the end of what has surely been a long week for many of us. So Vinay, let's get started then, if you're ready.
Okay.
So I envy you so much because you went to Zhejiang University in Hangzhou, China for your doctoral studies. In fact, remind me when you tell the story, as I recall, you went first for your master's there. So how did that happen, and how would you sum up the Chinese doctoral experience? So let's start there.
So I guess I should start with a brief introduction, why exactly I choose China and why for doctors. So when I started my journey for China from Jindal Global Law School, I took a step forward for my master's. I never planned to do my PhD in Chinese law, that too from China. But when I been there for master's, I started getting my interest. And it was like 2014, that time China was really booming up their economy. So I just wanted to learn the laws, like how come the big country can grow up so fast and India is like, there must be some differences or something. So I just want to learn the deep depth of Chinese legal system. So during my master's, I met some of the professors from India or from different countries who did Chinese law like master's, PhD studies, or currently who are into research with Chinese legal system. I met them, interaction with them. Then slowly I get interest in the Chinese studies. Then when I was finishing my master's, I was thinking to take a break and go for a walk. But as in the previous days of the webinar, many of their questions were we should work before the PhD or we should continue from master's. Then I thought a lot about this, like I should continue my PhD or not, or I should join for work for a while, then do my PhD. But some of the professors, as well as some of my friends, they suggested me like, currently you are on the best path and you came to China for master. If you go back to India to work, might be possible you don't get an opportunity again, like to come back to China for your PhD. And currently you are doing very well in this field, like especially in China. So I just at least they were like kind of my idols who inspired me to continue my journey for PhD. Even after my PhD, I continuing my research in China only. So that's the thing.
So I do believe you, when you went for your master's, it was because JGI was offering some master's scholarships to JGU students. And I remember having the privilege of working with that partnership, because that is one institution which I just admire so much. And it's a beautiful campus and an incredible part of the country. Just a follow-up question, how is the doctoral program in law kind of designed in China? Is it quite interdisciplinary? Are all doctoral programs quite disciplinary, or is the discipline specificities pretty much the same that you will get everywhere?
For actually, in China, one of the major problem me and most of the all the international students face is the language barrier. So there is a PhD program for foreigner students, which is generally for a specific Chinese law, or we can choose only one topic. But if someone wants to do a really depth study of specific law or very specific point, then the program is not exactly designed for the foreigners because most of the program is for Chinese students. But for like my program, the structure of my program was like it was a 3 year study program, which can be extended to 5 years if someone is unable to complete the requirements like the publication, dissertation, and if someone fails in the defense or something that I'll talk about later. So the 3 year program basically is designed in such a way the first year we basically learn the Chinese laws, like lecture. We have a lecture session and where we keep learning. And the second year and the third year was basically designed only for research and writing. So in the second year, we have proposal defense, and like before defense, the proposal defense is really a very important aspect of the PhD. So we submit the proposal at the end time of admission, but proposal defense happens in the beginning of the second year. And then we need to keep researching on the publication work, and at the same time also need to research a lot about our dissertation. And the final year, like third year, is all about submission. We need to make sure we have completed all the requirements, all the publications, all the credits required for the PhD. At the same time, the final defense. The final defense, the one thing I really like about my program is, I don't know if it is happening in all the PhD programs in different countries or different universities. We even have the proposal like pre-defense system. So that really gives the positive side of the, that gives us a confidence. Like once we clear the pre-defense, the defense goes to be very smooth. So that's the structure of the program. I joined my study in 2016 and just like I finished my PhD in 2019.
Great. So you already mentioned that it was a 3 year program. Did you find that, how did you find that in terms of duration? Did you find it quite strict and limited, or do you find it was okay? What set of factors do you consider when you look at length of program? And then how did you prepare for your defense? I want to come to the defense now. Yeah. How did you prepare? And you also mentioned the proposal defense. So what exactly did you focus on in your proposal defense, and how much did your work or your project evolve after the proposal defense, between the proposal defense and your actual defense or submission?
Okay. So I guess like let me talk about the duration of the program. As mentioned, the duration of the program is from 3 years to 5 years. 3 years is very intensive basically. Sometimes I also find it difficult to finish all the requirements in 3 years. But at the same time, it can be extended to 3.5, 4, 4.5, maximum up to 5 years. When I finished my PhD in 3 years, I was really very tired at the end of 3 years. Like really it's finishing up, but it was a big commitment, which is done. But there were some of my classmates who didn't even graduated after the 4th year. So still they are working on their dissertations and all. So that was the case. And there is one more thing in different universities, the part-time PhD, if you like, I can share about part-time PhD program as well. So part-time PhD is like 5 to 7 years program. At the same time, students are allowed to work and they can join the lecture during weekends or something. So that was also a case, but most of the students whom I know, they prefer the full-time PhD because then they can focus on their work like projects or research very deeply. Now I'll talk about pre-defense, then only I'll go to defense, because pre-defense, I think it's the most important like step for my graduation at least. So when I finished my I completed my dissertation in the month of January, December, and in January we have a pre-defense. So my supervisor told me, see, this is the last chance for you. If you any time can't defend yourself in pre-defense, you can't graduate on time. Like there is no opportunity for second pre-defense before the defense comes in. So, but pre-defense, the panel of the pre-defense is like all the panel members coming from the same university, not exactly from our law school, but from the same university with the related field. And after we complete the pre-defense, if someone fails to pass it, then they need to extend their studies. But I managed to pass the pre-defense, and then the next process is we have a blind review, like anonymous review, in which our dissertation sent out domestically, even internationally in some cases. And all the 5 reviews must be passed. Even if single review comes like very poor or poor, a student can't graduate. So, but after the pre-defense, we keep getting the comments from the panel, and we finally added the thesis. And after once we receive back the file, like this thing, 5 reviews from the anonymous blind review, if everything passes, then the final defense comes in the month of April. So final defense is basically as good as the pre-defense, but one very complicated situation is the professors we don't know at all. All the professors are selected by Chinese government, and they all coming from different parts of the China, but they are from legal field. And one more important factor is when it is pre-defense, our supervisor is the member of the panel. But when it comes to defense, it's not even certain that my supervisor is there to giving me a confidence during the whole, and we just need to defend in front of the like 5 best people of the term. So that was the final defense thing.
Wow, that's fascinating. So I have 2 questions for you. One is, how did that review that happened on your thesis, those 5 reviewers that you talked about, how did that help shape your preparation for your defense? Did your work evolve at all from that stage? How did that help, or what was your kind of experience on that? And then second, I mean, this is just fascinating, right? Like your supervisor isn't even like, not only do you not know the committee in your final defense, your supervisor may not even be part of the committee, and it's a completely kind of, open process.
Right.
Do you remember any exciting or interesting moments from your defense that you want to share, or maybe one moment that you never forget?
Not from defense, but as you mentioned, this 5 blind review. So the total time for the blind reviews is 2 to 3 months, but generally the blind review on the replies comes in 1 month or something. So my 4 reviews comes in 1 month, and my last review didn't come even for like 2 months. So I was really very nervous for it, like what's it gonna be, why it's taking so much long time, and like just was expecting nothing wrong will go. So it takes like more than 2 months. And even if it doesn't come on time, then I can't be a member, like I can't sit for the defense team. But like, and one more thing, as you mentioned, like how blind review helps us to in the defense team. If the blind reviewer comes and there are some minor changes, we can work on the thesis. Then blind reviews answer, like they grade our dissertation in excellent, very good, good, very poor, and poor. So if it is like excellent, very good, or good, we have a chance to improve our thesis, like good and very good condition. But if it is very poor or poor, we are done with the, like, we need to do extension for the graduation. So for one of my reviewer, it was like good, and I need to do some of the changes in my dissertation. But that really helped me when it comes for the final defense. And there was one of the questions comes in directly from that thing, like, why didn't you do this and this, and this not making the same symmetry of the whole dissertation. So that was really very helpful. So that's the thing, like.
What was the kind of mental preparation that you did for your defense?
Mentally, actually, I was very relaxed. Like when I was preparing for like as I said, if we are done with pre-defense, it really gives a very big confidence to all of us. So when it comes for a defense thing, my 4 reviews, 3 reviewers comes as very good, 1 was excellent, 1 was good. So I was very sure and very relaxed, like I can handle it. But still, there is a pressure back on my mind, like just in case whatever happens. So we would like, if I remember correctly, I didn't talk to anyone, not even to my family before a day of defense. Like, and I literally tell them, I'll call you directly after defense. What will be the result? And I'll tell you if I'll graduate. If not, then we'll see. So it was a very big pressure, but anyhow, I managed to pass and complete it on time.
Awesome, you did it. Okay, listen, before I ask you the next question, I would like to invite our attendees to drop their questions either in Q&A or in chat. So we look forward to getting to those in a second. Now you are currently pursuing your postdoc, also at JJ, am I right?
Right.
So talk to us about a postdoc and how is it different from a doctoral program? What is it all about? And what is the understanding of a postdoc in China, for example, compared to elsewhere in the world?
Okay. So basically, postdoc is like in China specifically when we talk, postdoc is a continuation to study, like research. Like doctoral and postdoc is both are the research, but I found both are very different to each other in many aspects. It's not the same kind of research when it comes to postdoc, because as in doctoral studies, the research is specific to the proposal we made or the project we choose at the beginning of the doctoral studies. But when I do postdoc, I have the option to do research for the different fields, or I can even like I can involve in the new projects. I can introduce new projects to my supervisor. Like we still have a supervisor, and with his consultation, I can be a part of the new project. That's the thing we don't get when we do the doctoral research. So the research is quite different. At the same time, I guess postdoc is also important as most of the doctoral candidates who finish their PhD, they want to go in academia. But if someone wants to be a assistant professor or professor, like just want to go, they even seek for the time or experience. At the same time, a candidate need to be mentally prepared if he really wants to join the academic for the long time or for the lifetime or something. So postdoc is also gives me a time to shape up my mind what exactly field I should research for future, and if I really want to go in academic for a long time, like that. So
So is a postdoc a prerequisite to be considered for a university position in China? Or is it more of like going on a research track? Like, what does it mean?
it's not exactly to go for an academic or position, it's more like continuation of research. Most of the Chinese students I know, like who were my colleagues during my doctoral studies, they opt to continue their doctoral studies with the same supervisor they have in their PhD. So basically, they just want to continue their research, whatever they did in PhD, or maybe just take a step ahead with the same field. But in my case, I just changed my supervisor, and it was really a complicated situation because generally it's not allowed to do so. But currently, I choose a professor. I took some lessons during my doctoral studies, and now I am getting interest in more like as I studied India, China. So currently I'm working on India, China legal studies. So my supervisor, like current postdoc supervisor, he really is very supportive and suggested me what exactly I can go with. And my doctoral research really not like I find it my research will be so suitable if I continue my postdoc with the same professor. So I switched him. Also, I want to mention like postdoc in like China or in different countries, it's more or less the same thing to polish our research, like just to make our research capabilities more strong. But one thing I find different is I don't know if in US or like other Western countries, China is currently focusing a lot on research, like the grants or the funds China government is spending on research. I think that currently China is the second or third rank all over globally who is spending the most number of grants or funds on the research. So postdoc is really a very good option if someone wants to pursue.
That's an excellent point, Vinay. I'm so glad you mentioned that because, the doctoral market, first of all, in itself is changing a lot currently. Second, the transition from getting a doctorate to landing an academic job has been so fraught, and it has been so now for the last several years, right? And now that's under even more kind of pressure with the ongoing crisis. So the fact that you've highlighted China as this opportunity landscape, I think is a big takeaway from our conversation today, and partly why I was so excited that we were closing out the series talking about doctoral opportunity in China, or talking to somebody who's done that. So other than kind of academic jobs, or more of like research, continuing the research that you start in your doctoral work, what do you think are the channels that open up once you finish your doctoral studies, like other than the conventional academic track?
Like one of the most influential and conventional track is like joining the academy, because as if I just want to join any institution, they directly ask me for at least a 3 years or 4 years working experience. So postdoc gives you a working experience, as I mentioned before. At the same time, it give me a time. If I really can think, I really want to devote myself in academics forever in the service field. Except academics, I guess the options available or like open for the other candidates are they can join some other research centers. Like if someone don't want to go in teaching, they can join some research centers or other institutions. Like I also joined like two of the institutions. Currently, I joined like Asian Studies of Academy of International Strategy and Law. At the same time, I have also joined Association of Asian Studies. So I keep joining their lectures, and sometimes I also share my opinion or join a webinar. So basically, this is a bit different from teaching, but research centers is the next option. And one more option is always open up for a researcher who finished doctoral studies in law, is a litigation if someone wants to join it. Like recently, when I finished my PhD, I came back to China and started my own law firm, which is currently working between India and China. So I think these are the three options for the legal field, or they can go anywhere. Like PhD is just a doctoral study or postdoc is just an option which it certainly gives more options to the litigator.
Fantastic. I don't see any questions from the audience yet, so I want to get to a subject that is really close to my heart, which is India-China educational cooperation. You know, first question under that is how, if in any way, did your perception about legal research or law evolve now that you've spent so much time in China or working in that system?
Can you please say it again? I didn't get it clearly.
The question, you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, please.
So doing doctoral work in China, did your idea, the idea that you had being formally trained in India, did your idea about law as a discipline, law as an idea, law in society, legal research, the legal profession, did it evolve in any way through your doctoral program that you spent in China?
Yeah, certainly. Like specifically, if we talk about India and China, before stepping into China, it was always in my head like China's legal system is not so good or whatever. Like what I believe is most of the people in India or different countries, we believe Chinese legal system is not strong as they don't have rule of law. But when I did my doctoral studies, the main research topic was role of judicial transparency, rule of law in China. So when I been to China, it's totally different, like totally helped me change my mindset about the legal system. I don't know if I answer your question well.
Yeah, absolutely. And going in that same direction, but more broadly than law, right? Like what do people who have done advanced degrees in China, what do they know about about the intercultural interaction, or just something that is different, that stands apart from the commonly held public perception. And I'm pushing you, I'll tell you why I'm pushing this part of the conversation so much. First of all, because as I said, I feel very strongly about India-China educational cooperation. The other thing is I'm painfully aware of how far behind we as Indians are, not in terms of the things that people generally say, like this is the military strength and this is the economy. I think we are very far behind in terms of our own understanding of our neighbor, right? I was so surprised when we've been running this this amazing program with Tsinghua University and JGU collaboration, where every year Tsinghua University sent 25 students to handpicked through a very rigorous open application process throughout the university to JGU to spend fully funded to spend 3 weeks. And couple of years ago, at the opening of the program, one of the vice presidents of Tsinghua University came and he said that, this year we had 100 high quality applicants for this program, just in this year alone, who met the Hindi language criteria and who met the, who had taken all of the basic courses about India, which they need just to apply for this program. And that was just an astounding kind of realization for me that if this is the state of affairs in one university in China about what the level of interest is in India, I mean, we just have so much ground to cover, right? So I guess what I'm asking you is like, what do you think is the scope moving forward? And what needs to be done to maximize this kind of cooperation at the doctoral level?
One thing what I believe is, as like Jindal Global Law School have a collaboration with different Chinese universities back in China, I think that can be very good point to involve Chinese students back in India or Indian students back in China to let them understand what exactly it is. As I am doing currently postdoc, and I have so many colleagues in different fields like engineering or whatsoever, nothing specifically about law. They keep telling me in India we don't have opportunities, we don't have research funds, the government don't give us that fund. But back in China, there are so many Indians who really interested and want to invest their research on, and they don't want to go US or like other Western countries. So currently, China is really open up for research and everything. So I think the research collaboration between the institutions will be a very big option or suggestion to improve the knowledge.
Fantastic. We still have a couple of minutes if any of the attendees want to ask any questions. I guess not. Well, I think this is a very inspiring and optimistic note to leave things on, don't you, Vinay? Because it really gives a sense of not just the opportunity landscape that is out there, but brings us back to this conversation about, how are we going to contribute to broader society and to global challenges through all of these conversations, right? And kind of also take us back into this mind frame of thinking about what is the role of academics in this. So great. It's been lovely having you. Do keep us posted on your progress, and look forward to seeing you again soon. And thank you once again to our attendees.
No, it's my pleasure to join this, and I hope I'll visit Jindal very soon. Like I was expecting a meeting with Professor Raj or like other professors, so I may come next month.
So look forward to catching up on campus
Sure,
sooner
sure.
than later. Thank you, Vinay. Thanks to the attendees. Thanks, Pratibha, and thank you, Shubhamji. Have a lovely evening. And that
Have a good
concludes our
evening.
series. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good evening.